All right, so here is my Big Ten weekly video. I promise this one will get uploaded. Let's just get right into it, not waste any more time. I was just going to talk about, for about 25-30 minutes about these games, go over some of the other games and whatnot. Starting out, uh, Illinois and Minnesota. So, man, I don't know what to say about Minnesota. I'll talk about Illinois in a second. I don't know what to say about Minnesota, but they started the season 4-0. They looked on fire, and now they've lost 2 games in a row. Purdue, you know, they lost here to Illinois. They lost to Purdue last week. Minnesota has basically solidified themselves as the third best team in the West. After everyone was thinking they were the best team in the West, that doesn't look like it's the case anymore. Minnesota and Illinois here was a decent game for a little while. It was pretty close. Minnesota actually had a lead at one point. It was 14-13, but Illinois ended up running away with it in the end, 26-14. Tanner Morgan, the Minnesota quarterback, got hurt in this game. We don't really know what's going on with him right now, but Tommy DeVito, the quarterback for Illinois, played really well. Illinois is still ranked. Illinois broke a streak, I think. A Big Ten West team gets ranked and then they usually lose. Minnesota did it just earlier this year, and it's just kind of a running theme from year to year. But Illinois broke that theme yesterday, winning once again. They look really good. They're running the ball really well. Had over 180 yards rushing from one guy who had 41 carries for 180 yards. Just crazy. They need to get somebody to back him up because that's a lot of carries, and you don't want him to get hurt. But I know they're banged up on running back right now. That doesn't mean he should take the whole load though. So Illinois looks really good, man. Minnesota, they kind of fallen off in these last couple of weeks. They were looking really good after that dominating win over Michigan State a few weeks ago. And now they've lost 2 in a row. And I guess people pretty much are saying, yeah, they're the second best or third best team in the West right now. So really unfortunate there for Minnesota, where people thought they were going to go much further. It looks like Illinois is on a bye week next week, as they, on October 29th, so they're on a bye week next week. They play at Nebraska after that, on October 29th. So they got at Nebraska, Michigan State, Purdue, Michigan, and at Northwestern. So Illinois can win those games. They look like the type of team that can do it. Defense looks really good, only holding Minnesota to 1 touchdown, really low amount of passing yards. I think Tanner Morgan went like 4 for 12 passing, something really horrible like that. So Illinois looks really good defensively too. Minnesota, on the other hand, they play Penn State at Penn State next week. A must win there for Minnesota. Maryland and Indiana was a good game, man. Talia Tungavailoa got hurt in this game, which is really unfortunate. Because I guess he was playing well in this game. Oops, hold on. I wanted to look at the game cast. Where is it? There it is. Talia Tungavailoa, 25 of 39, 270 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He ended up getting hurt in this game. Now, they ended up still winning. Where was I before I got interrupted? Maryland. So, despite Talia Tungavailoa getting injured, Maryland still pulled out the win on the road over Indiana, 38-33. It was a close game here. Quarterback for Indiana, Bazelak, had 3 touchdowns, so he did well. They still lost the game. They're 3-4 now, and 1-3 in the Big Ten. So they're not in any race to win the East or anything like that. Also, I forgot to mention, I don't talk about Michigan. Well, actually, I will talk about Michigan in this game for one reason. But if you want to see my analysis on Michigan, go watch it. I'm a Michigan fan, so I make a separate video for them. But I'm still going to talk about them here. So Maryland gets the win, a win that they needed because they lost last week. Kind of need to get that momentum back. They play Northwestern next week at home, so they should dominate that game, honestly. In Indiana, they play at Rutgers. So Rutgers never wins a game at home, so a conference game at home, I should say. So I'll take Indiana on that one. I think both of those teams can get wins next week. But I don't really know what you want me to say. Maryland got the win. They should have won by more. Indiana played better. Maryland played down to their opponent, but still beat them. Moving on. Michigan State and Wisconsin was exciting. This game went to double overtime. Michigan State finally got a win, 34-28. I think they lose like 3 or 4 games in a row or something. They finally beat a really bad Wisconsin team. Let's be real, Wisconsin's no good. They're 1-3 in the Big Ten, and this is in the West. Okay, so 34-28 double overtime. It was a good game, honestly. It was really exciting to watch. So Peyton Thorne had a couple of touchdowns, almost 300 yards passing. So they did pretty well there. Yeah. So Michigan State wins it. Well, let's see. How many? Graham Mertz, 131 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and interception. It looks like Michigan State played a little bit better than they usually do when it comes to defending the pass. But how much does that really mean when it's Wisconsin? Michigan State gets the win. This is the best they've looked in weeks. Michigan State plays Michigan on October 29th. So they're on a bye week next week, I believe. Same week as Michigan. We both are on a bye week, so look at that. That's their next game. And Michigan's next game is also Michigan State. So both teams are on a break next week. That's good for both teams, hopefully. I didn't even realize that. I didn't realize both teams were taking a break the same week. Wisconsin, on the other hand, plays Purdue at home next week. So I don't see Wisconsin winning that. I see Purdue winning that game, which is not something I would have said in the past. Speaking of Purdue, they got the win again. This is, I think they said their 3rd Big Ten win in a row, which is the first time since 2018 or something like that. They beat Nebraska here at home. Nebraska honestly has looked better. And I guess the only way they could possibly have a better or a worse they couldn't possibly have a worse record than last year. They already have 3 wins. They're 3-4 now. They just need one more win and they'll have a better record than last year. So, but Purdue wins it 43-37. This was also a good game. It didn't go into overtime. There was a lot of really good games this weekend. Sorry, my hair is nuts. A lot of really good games, close games, games that I thought were going to be a lot closer than I thought they were going to be. So Purdue wins it 43-37. They are 5-2, 3-1. Aiden O'Connell played a great game, 4 touchdowns today. You know, Purdue's one of those pass-heavy teams, so air raid offense. So they're gonna have they're gonna have a million passing yards in every game they play in, because that's their bread and butter. They play at Wisconsin next week, as we were talking about before. So Purdue looks good, and honestly, right now Purdue is looking to be the 2nd best team in the Big Ten West. I think it'll be really interesting. I don't know if Illinois and Purdue play each other, but that would be a huge game if they did. I'll look at it here in a second. But Nebraska, on the other hand, play Illinois at home next week. So Illinois should win that one. Nebraska, I guess the best thing you can say about Nebraska for that game is that they got it at home. And I guess even if Illinois and Purdue don't play each other, you can compare how Purdue and Illinois played against Nebraska from back-to-back weeks, who looked better. Purdue ended up beating Nebraska. Nebraska's third in the Big Ten West right now. And I think Minnesota fourth? Yeah, fourth in the Big Ten West. And then you've got Purdue, who's second. Nope, they're first in the Big Ten. Excuse me? Illinois, though. They're tied for first. All right, cool. That's interesting. But yeah, Purdue, 43-37 over Nebraska. It is time for my favorite part of the video, the Big Ten Loser of the Week. Now, I know I usually talk about Michigan in their own separate video, but I have to put it in this video because it's got to be in this specific video. Penn State is the Big Ten Losers of the Week. I was thinking about it. I was like, man, who should be the Big Ten loser this week? Obviously, Penn State. Listen, when I do the Big Ten Loser of the Week, it's not always because of the team they're playing. It could just be the individual team's performance. And they had a very pitiful performance. And outside of a few lucky plays, this score, this 41-17 score, could have been a lot worse. This could have been a 55-10 game if Michigan limited more of those mistakes. But again, we don't play an if game here in the real world. What happened. Michigan still dominated, 41-17. Penn State continue to fail in big games like this. When they get down to it and they play top 10 opponents, especially on the road, they are 0-10 under James Franklin. Not good. This was also a Penn State team that came into this year with, expectations of a Big Ten East title, making a Big Ten championship. And while those goals are still realistically in front of them, they're a lot less likely now. They needed this win in order to increase their odds exponentially. Now, they could still make it. They would have to beat Ohio State and hope Michigan loses a game or two. They would actually have to hope Michigan loses twice in the Big Ten. And they'd have to beat Ohio State and win out just to make it. So their chances, it really is, in the Big Ten East, it's not a good idea to lose a game. Like you have losing one game could be your season. And I think in this case, unless some trickery happens, unless some things go their way that is out of their control, Penn State is no longer in the race for the East. You've got Michigan at 7-0. You've got Ohio State at 6-0. Penn State does not have an easy schedule. They came into this game saying, man, they've got a great run game. We shut them down. I think they had 14 carries for 41 yards or something like that total in this game. Not good. Nick Singleton was pretty much a non-factor for Penn State's offense. Sean Clifford got hurt in this game. I hate to see it. Hopefully he's okay and he can get back in there. They had to play their 5-star freshman for, I think, probably a little over half of the fourth quarter, I would say. I don't remember when he came in. Penn State came into this game also allowing a total of 398 rushing yards through 5 games. Total. Through 5 games, 398 total yards, which was fifth best in the country. Michigan came in here and had 418 yards on the ground. absolutely dominating performance. Penn State had no answers, and even though they had a lead a couple of times, Michigan was pretty much dominating this whole game, and obviously looked like the best team out there. Penn State fails to win a big game again. They have another big game in a few weeks. They play Ohio State. They got to play all those tough games. Let's see. They've got Minnesota next week at home, so that's a big game right there. Both teams desperately need a win. Well, not desperately. Minnesota desperately needs a win. Penn State does need to keep winning just to even be have any chance of making it. But after that, they got to play Ohio State. They play Ohio State the same week. Michigan plays Michigan State. I hope we can beat Michigan State, and then Penn State. I hope Penn State beats Ohio State. That would be great. I know that that's not realistic, but I can dream. And if Penn State wants to lose to Minnesota on the way, and then beat Ohio State, that is my ideal situation right there. But yeah, their schedule is not incredibly easy. They've got Minnesota and Ohio State. That's a tough 2-game stretch. After that, they got Indiana. Indiana is no slouch. They're not great, but they're no slouch. Maryland, Maryland's tough. Rutgers, at Rutgers, you should win that one. Michigan State at home. Michigan State's down this year, but it's still a big game that you guys play at the end of the year. That I think last year meant a lot more. Excuse me. So, Penn State, you got a tough stretch. Michigan, my Wolverines, you got Michigan State in a couple of weeks, and we got at Rutgers, Nebraska, Illinois, and Ohio State. We can win all those games. I'm just being honest. We can win all those games, and we could lose all those games. College football is weird. But, Penn State, Big Ten losers this week. First time making that appearance. Week 8. See, if Michigan would have beat them in a close game, I wouldn't have put them up there. It was the fact that it was a blowout, and no one expected it. Let's look into next week. So, for this past week, obviously there was 4 teams that were on a break. I believe it was Ohio State, Iowa, Rutgers, and Northwestern. Those are the 4 teams. So 10 out of the 14 teams played this week. Next week, we got another few teams that are on a break. We got Michigan State, and a couple others. I don't actually know off the top of my head right now. I'm looking at it, but I can't think straight. Next week, Iowa and Ohio State. At Ohio State, I imagine Ohio State will open as a very big favorite. Ohio State will probably score a field goal on their opening drive, and then Iowa will throw in the towel. Indiana and Rutgers, Indiana and Rutgers, that's I don't know what to say about that game. That game really doesn't mean much. I guess it's just they're looking for a win. These teams just need wins. Purdue and Wisconsin. I'm taking Purdue. Ordinarily, I would take Wisconsin on the average year, but they're just not good, man. Wisconsin's no good. Purdue is up. Wisconsin's down. Northwestern, Maryland, give me a break. Northwestern's a horrible garbage can of a program. A football team. They could go 1-11. Honestly, look at let me show you Northwestern's schedule. They play at Maryland, at Iowa, Ohio State at home, so I guess there's some good news there. At Minnesota, at Purdue. Oh my gosh. Their next 6 games, 4 of them are on the road. And then they play Illinois to end the season. They play Minnesota, Purdue, and Illinois. Wow. So they basically play Maryland, who's tough, Iowa, who that defense will dominate Northwestern. I don't know if Iowa or Northwestern will score any points in that game. Ohio State will have 1,000,000 yards against Northwestern. And then you got to play Minnesota, Purdue, and Illinois, the three best teams in the West. Good luck, Northwestern. That is ridiculous right there. So Maryland might be one of your easier ones, besides maybe one or two. And then Penn State and Minnesota. That's a big game for both teams. Penn State needs a bounce back. Minnesota needs a win and a bounce back as well. These are teams that are searching for wins right now, not just because you want to win on the average week, but just because they really need it. And actually, I want to see if Illinois and I don't know if they do. Illinois and Purdue play each other. It doesn't look like it. Illinois. Oh, they do. They do. Illinois and Purdue at Illinois. Wow. That should be a good game. That's on November 13th? Or no. That's week 11. I don't know what day that is. Same week, Michigan plays Nebraska. Ohio State plays Indiana. Whatever. We'll get to those games when we get to them. But yeah. Right now, that's the whole Big Ten right now. Let's go over the top 25. I like to go over how these top 25 teams fared in these games. So Georgia blew out Vanderbilt 55-0. I think everyone knew that was going to happen. Whatever. Tennessee and Alabama. I made an individual video about that game. Unbelievable football game. I think Tennessee is definitely a top 4 team. I don't think they should jump Michigan. I don't. If you're a Tennessee fan and you have a problem with my opinion on that, get over it. We're ranked ahead of you guys. We have a top 10 win. Just got a top 10 win. Won by 24 points. I know you beat Bama. I know Bama's better than Penn State. Don't care. Don't care. The top 3 or top 4, in my opinion now, Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Tennessee. That's my top 4. And then you can put Clemson in there if you want. I don't really know about Clemson, honestly. I know we went into this game 5th ranked and Clemson was 4th, but they had a worse game than we did. So they did win, but they beat a pretty average to mediocre Florida State team by 6 points. Not impressive. But Tennessee, man, this is a huge win for the Tennessee program. First win over Alabama since 2006. They play him every year. First win over Nick Saban. He won 15 in a row. 15 years in a row. The 15-year streak is over. 15-1 now is Nick Saban against Tennessee. This was a crazy game that went literally down to the end. Alabama could have won this game with a 50-yard field goal with like 20 seconds left in the game. Missed it. They shanked it wide right. And Tennessee and Hendon Hooker had probably the greatest drive you will see one of the greatest drives you'll see this year. Just bomb after bomb. Got right into field goal territory, called a timeout with like 2 seconds left, and kicked the game-winning 40-yard field goal. Absolutely crazy. Fans stormed the field, obviously. Great win for Tennessee and for Tennessee fans. This is something that is a long time coming. So good for Tennessee. Clemson, they beat Florida State on the road 34-28. I understand that playing on the road at night is always a tough environment, but I still think people were expecting a little more out of Clemson. Clemson was actually dominating this game for most of it, and Florida State came back and they made it interesting. So, good on Florida State for the effort, but A for effort, I would say, but they still ended up losing this game. Michigan, Penn State, we already talked about that. USC and Utah. Man, what a game this was too. This was one of the better games as well. I think, to me, was the second best game of the day, in terms of how entertaining it was, how close it was. Tennessee, Alabama, obviously, it doesn't, for me, it isn't being touched. That was the best game of the week. But USC and Utah was also great. Utah winning here 43-42. Really high scoring game. Utah scored, made it 42-41. Went for two, which I thought was gutsy. And they got it. Made it 43-42. And USC just couldn't do anything after that. Utah ended up winning this game by 1 point. Crazy game. Great win for Utah, and I'm happy because I predicted Utah to win this game. I was like, give me Utah. So I was really happy that my prediction was right. I didn't bet money on it or anything. I do it for fun, and I'm just glad I was happy. Or I'm happy that I was right. It's always nice to be right. And probably the third best game of the day, and another game that I was happy I predicted correctly, TCU beating Oklahoma State. I think TCU came back from being down like 14 or 17 points or something in this game. They were down pretty big. And TCU ended up coming back in overtime, winning this game 43-40. Really good game-winning touchdown to win the game. You could really flip-flop this game and the USC-Utah game for what was the second best game of the day. It's really up to you. I'm saying it's the second best. It was crazy because this game was going on exactly the same time as the Alabama and Tennessee game, and I was watching the Alabama-Tennessee game on my TV, and I was watching the TCU-Oklahoma State game on my phone, and both games were going crazy, and both teams that I wanted to win or predicted to win ended up winning, because when Alabama loses, the nation wins. So, big game. This is a big game for TCU and Oklahoma State, and it was a great game. Ole Miss beat Auburn 48-34. Ole Miss continues to win games and not look impressive doing it. I don't know what it is. Whatever, they get the win. Syracuse, they beat NC State, and I'm shocked about this. Honestly, 24-9 was the score. Syracuse, they're ranked undefeated. I'm like, yeah, whatever, I don't think that they're still that great, but they beat NC State. Now, how good is NC State? I don't know. They're 15th ranked, and this is their second loss, so they should be out of the rankings in my eyes. They shouldn't be ranked anymore. Mississippi State and Kentucky. Kentucky wins this one 27-17. So Mississippi State loses a game. I'm honestly surprised that Kentucky won this game. Kansas, man, I was hoping they would pull it out over Oklahoma. I predicted Kansas just because I really like Kansas this year. They did not win. Oklahoma basically scored at will in this game, 52-42, and they needed this after getting killed by Texas last week. Speaking of Texas got a close win over Iowa State at home, 24-21. Not necessarily impressive. Minnesota, Illinois, we already talked about, and James Madison actually ended up losing as soon as they got in the rankings. I didn't even realize they were ranked, honestly. They're 25th ranked. I mean, I knew they were ranked, but it took me a while to figure that out. I figured that out probably yesterday. I was like, James Madison is ranked? Okay. But they ended up losing to Georgia Southern 45-38, so they're right out of the rankings now. So that's the top 25. Is there just any other good games between unranked matches? Baylor continues to lose, so what happened to them? Man? Just trying to see here. Army beat Colgate. Central Michigan beat Akron. That was a close game. It's 28-21. Bowling Green beat Miami of Ohio. Blah, blah, blah. Miami beat Virginia Tech. Colorado got a win. That's pretty crazy. They beat California, a really bad California team. And Colorado finally gets their first win. Ball State beat UConn. This was a close game. I think UConn had a lead in this game at one point. Arkansas beat the crap out of BYU, 52-35. This I thought would have been a bigger game earlier in the season, but both teams kind of fell off the map, and now no one really cared. No one was talking about it. Liberty beat Gardner-Webb by 1, 21-20. Northern Illinois beat Eastern Michigan 39-10. Come on, Eastern Michigan. Toledo beat Kent State. Ohio beat Western Michigan. Troy beat Texas State. UAB beat Charlotte. Western Kentucky beat Middle Tennessee. Tulane beat South Florida. North Texas beat Louisiana Tech. Washington, they're winning again. 49-39. Not necessarily impressive over Arizona. Florida Atlantic beat Rice. LSU ended up beating Florida. That was kind of surprising. I thought Florida was going to win this game, honestly. And this was supposed to be a bigger SEC game, but neither team is ranked. Utah State beat Colorado State, blah, blah, blah. South Alabama beat UL Monroe. Southern Miss beat Arkansas State. Stanford beat Notre Dame? Come on, Notre Dame. What are you doing? You're 3-3 now? Garbage. East Carolina beat Memphis. New Mexico State beat New Mexico. North Carolina beat Duke. Two basketball schools there. Oregon State beat Washington State. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, some games no one cares about. Yeah. That's pretty much it. So that's the whole video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.